I know that women have great ideas. They are so brilliant. Are women in shadow that are not seen, and they're hiding, and they have the best ideas. And you're just like, what? And she's just telling you, yeah, I had this idea 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So this is a call to action to every single woman. If you need a pair of big girl panties, we can borrow you. We both have a lot of them. And so, we have to also claim it.
Hello, and welcome back to the Joyous Path to Millions podcast. I am super excited for today's episode. I'm interviewing someone who is going to be a whole lot of fun. So before I have Ayo introduce herself and tell you all about her, I want to just say hello in case you're new listening here. I'm Emily June Wilcox. I'm the host of this podcast. I am a money healer and business mentor. I'm the creator of the Money Wound Medicine program. My mission on the planet is to help women heal their money wounds so they can step into all of the wealth that they desire. And I truly believe that when there's more wealth in the hands of women, good things happen on this planet. And I am joined by the gorgeous Ayo, and I know that she feels very similarly. So let's just dive into this juicy conversation. Ayo, welcome to the show. Can you please introduce yourself, tell everyone who you are and what you do?
Oh, thank you so much. And this beautiful introduction that you just had gave me goosebumps all over my body. I was just saying, amen, hallelujah, that's it. That is so true, of course. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Ayo, as you already said. I am a business coach, a marketing agency owner, a speaker, an author, and so many other things. It's challenging for me when people ask me to introduce myself as a multidimensional being with a lot of passions and a lot of things that I do. I have also many other businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and I've been doing this for the past 13 years, and I am an advocate of money in the hands of women because, as you said, this is so important, not just for women. It's important for everybody. It's important for men as well.
Yes.
It's going to bring happiness to absolutely everybody. I'm actually for money in the hands of everybody. I think that people, every single person on this planet, deserves to live abundantly and live a life where they don't live to survive and to struggle and to think when is the next paycheck coming.
Yeah.
And they're literally missing out on living. We came here, I think, to live. We didn't come here to worry or to stress about money or health or all that. And so I think we're going to create something beautiful today with you.
Thank you. I totally agree. It's like when we're stuck in survival mode, which we know is like the bottom of the hierarchy of needs, then there's really no time for creativity, for self-exploration. And when you look at like the Renaissance and some of these periods in history that have been just incredibly creative, and we've seen some of the best art come from those times, well, they weren't struggling to survive. They weren't trying to figure out how to put food on the table. And that's why we were able to see such creativity and such even scientific advancement as well. So I'm right there with you. I think that's like what we came here for. And it's such a shame that so many are stuck in survival mode. And so here we are doing our part. So I didn't know that you were also an agency owner as well. That's something we also share. What kind of agency do you have?
I have a done-for-you marketing agency, and we basically do all the branding of people, their emails, their content, their websites, everything that they don't want to do, we do that because we actually like doing it. We're a little bit of geeks and nerds, including myself, to be honest with you. That's how I actually started. I have 4 agencies behind my back, and this is the 4th one that I've built. So I've scaled multiple agencies, 2 agencies to 7 figures, and the other ones were multiple 6-figure agencies. So I've been there, done that. I have the t-shirt. Maybe I should have a t-shirt. I'm an agency owner. And people will know because that's tough, actually. It's difficult to be a marketing agency owner, and do all these things. People think that, oh, that is so awesome. It's a lot of work.
It is.
So yeah.
It is. Like, all the memes on the internet are true. When it's like, when people want the $50,000 job for $5, and people that don't know how to communicate their vision. And so your team does a bunch of work and then you get really weird feedback. Like, it's all true.
Leadership at its finest. This is what we practice as agency owners, because we're not only leaders to our team and we lead the team, and we have to be so good at executing tasks and managing them and telling them how to do the task, because I think that if you don't communicate properly, you don't have the right to expect anything from anybody. Yeah. So you master communications with the team, you learn how to build teams, which is so important in the world of business. We know that if you want to have a multiple 7-figure business, you'd better be good at building teams. But then you also learn leadership with your clients, because you have to be in this soft spot of being like a little bit controlling and a little bit of a control freak, because you have to be like, oh, we need this on time. And at the same time, you have to make them feel like they are also the leader. So being an agency owner, I think it's a very interesting position and a very interesting business model to be in. And it's not for the faint of heart. It is. You need a couple of really big girl panties, about 7 pairs of them, to change them as regularly as possible. You know those Bridget Jones grandma pants? That's what you need. You put them on and then you're like, okay, we're good.
So did you always know that you would be an entrepreneur?
Oh my goodness, yes. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My family is very small business owners. They have their own pottery shop, so they're artists slash entrepreneurs. It was so easy for me to work with spiritual entrepreneurs and artists, because I was like, yeah, I know exactly what's happening in your head. So my parents brought me in their shop when I was 40 days. And I was surrounded by clients since I was a child. So basically I was around negotiations, around pricing, selling, all of that. So it was not something, man, what is this selling? It was so natural. And I fell in love with it, to be honest with you. I saw the hard work. But I think that because my parents were so in love with what they were doing, it was their passion, their purpose. They were working 16 hours a day, but when they came back home with me, we were happy and we felt good. And so I loved it. I loved that we have this, our place, our magic, and we create these beautiful things, and we can travel, we have the freedom, we can do stuff. So it was a lot of fun, even though I saw it's very hard sometimes. It's like, but what isn't hard? I mean, let's face it. What isn't? Everything has its own level. And so that was the thing. I was 19 years old when I started my very first business. It was, again, something like marketing agency. So I was doing the social media for so many European countries. I've worked for one of the biggest European countries. And I thought, okay, this is it. And I think that at this point, it's just an identity that I have. And you probably know it as an entrepreneur. It's an identity. It becomes part of you. And sometimes it's difficult to detach, because entrepreneurs are very different type of a breed, especially the real ones, not the wannabes, the hardcore real ones who live it, breathe it. Their brain is just different. And so it's always been there. It's always been there. And I think that this is it. Even in the future, I don't know what might happen, but it will always be my love, to be honest with you. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it's nice to hear examples of kiddos growing up around entrepreneurship. You're giving me so much hope for my kids that,
my gosh,
that they'll just believe everything is possible. And I was just filming the other week. I was selected to be a judge on an entrepreneur reality TV show.
Congrats.
Thank you. And my 8-year-old daughter was just like, oh, that's so cool, Mom. You're going to be on TV. And it's like, it is cool. But what's cooler to me is not that I'm going to be on TV. It's that my daughter sees her mom doing really cool out of the box things. And therefore, she hopefully believes that everything is possible for her too.
That's beautiful, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, which is very male. I mean, think about it, 10 years ago, there weren't so many female entrepreneurs. I'm currently writing my book, The Future of Business is Female, and I've done tons of research because it's a serious book. I have to be very careful with what I'm putting there, especially when you speak about feminism. You just have to be very careful because everybody's like, you're feminist. However, you probably seen this 10 years ago. It wasn't next to the word entrepreneur in the dictionary, it was a male. Next to CEO, it was a male. Some of the biggest names that we know about, like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, male, male, male. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not one of these people who's like, F everybody, like, fuck off, males, we hate you. I love men. They're delicious, just like Cher. I love them, they're amazing. But if you don't have an example in your life of something, it's very hard for you to go and try and do it. And if we see the history with everything, people who had an example, they go and try to replicate or do something like that.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful that your daughter is seeing this and she's seeing that mom is doing this. This means that if I want to do it,
yeah,
that's a good thing, and I can go and do it. So I love what you're saying, and I'm so happy. And I also want to watch the show, so please send me the show. I'm just yes, please.
Yes, I will keep you posted once it airs. We'll be blasting it everywhere. Yeah, it's so true, and that's kind of how I feel about focusing on women in business and putting money in the hands of women. I really agree with your previous statement, which is that like men too. And my thought is when we sort of take care of the most disadvantaged, which is not just women, but it's actually like women of color, then it's like when we just give more opportunities, it's like it's a rising tide that raises all ships and everyone benefits from that. And men have created certain pathways to wealth, which women have also benefited from. But it's like when you see the women who have done the best, they typically have adopted a very masculine way of being because they were needing to build wealth still in that patriarchal paradigm. And so I think what we're here to do is to show what new paradigm wealth can look like, where there's more balanced masculine, feminine energy, and it just brings more people with. And it's like the old paradigm doesn't have to go away. It will still work for the people that it works for. But for those who felt really left behind and like, well, I can't do it that way. That doesn't work for my family. That doesn't work for my body. That doesn't work for my way of being. Now there's like additional examples of women doing it a different way. And then more people will see themselves in that. Like, oh, okay, I couldn't do it Steve Jobs' way, but I can do it Ayo's way.
Musk's way.
Or Elon Musk's way. That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I'm still grateful to those guys and that they did it their way. And I think it's incredibly inspiring.
I love them. I actually have a crush on Elon Musk sometimes when he's not pissing me off. I'm like, look at you. And
I'm not convinced that he would be a good life partner, but...
what did you say? Oh, girl, who's talking about a life partner? We're just talking about inspiration and having fun. I so agree with you. And here's another thing. Let's not pretend that men and women are the same. Equality does not mean we are the same. I actually am very against saying, if you can do it, I can do it better. The thing women say, I can do this better. But I'm like, own the fact that you're a woman. Own the fact that, for example, he can be very physical. He can do a lot of physical things that probably you can't do. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
There is plenty of research. And again, I had to dig for years, and I've read probably hundreds of books on research on female and male brain and how it operates. And the thing is, females and males are very different in business.
Yeah.
Not just if you take energetics. If you just take the physiology of our brains and the hormones that we have and how they influence men and how they influence women. So for example, and I'm going to circle back and you will see why I'm sharing this with you and why it's important for us to have women as well. Not just, let's just have women for the sake of equality and let's just have women of color for the sake of just having equality. No, it's not because of that. It's because we want to support expansion.
Yes.
And why we need that? It's because the female brain, because it's influenced by estrogen heavily, progesterone and oxytocin, we are, for example, great in communications. We are great in bonding. We are great at building communities. We are great at seeing details. It is proven, science proves that women see details. I mean, let's face it, every single day you're like, he has done something, he hasn't seen it. And you're like, but what about that? What do you think that you missed? So we see details. We are very capable of empathy, of compassion. And so all these features as women make us create, for example, we are great in bringing medical solutions. We are great at creating businesses that are inclusive. We are great at creating businesses that are sustainable because we want to take care of employees, right? We don't want to burn employees and then we don't have a business. We want to build long-term relationships. We're more intuitive. So we bring all these amazing qualities as women. And what studies show is in industries like STEM industries, like technology and science and physics, mathematics, where we have more men in these industries create solutions for, drumroll, men, because that's how it is.
Yeah.
And so they create more things that serve men. So for example, let's take the biohacking industry. The biohacking industry is so ruled by men, it doesn't serve women. No wonder why you can't lose weight, because you do some biohacking protocol and you're like, it's not working. That's because, honey, you have a bajillion other hormones that, of course, it's not working.
Right.
What they found is women in business, they find cures for example, diseases that predominantly women have. Women have more depression than men. Women have more autoimmune system issues because they keep so much. And so going back to, again, I told you I'm going to circle, and I'm sorry that took a little bit long, but I'm a woman, so I talk a lot.
I like it.
Blame it on estrogen. Because we have more women, we find better cures. I mean, we want our mothers to live longer. We want our daughters. I'm sure that all men want their mom to live longer and be healthier and happier. Their daughter, their spouse, their sister, their best friend who's a female. And so it only makes sense that we allow women and give them more opportunities, not just like, let's give an opportunity to every single person under the sun. No, you still need to be qualified.
Yeah.
But also there's scientific proof as well that women entrepreneurs are less funded than males.
By a lot.
By a lot. I was shocked. The percentages are scary.
Yeah.
And when I was writing my book in that chapter, I was really shocked.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that it will be so drastic. And there's many reasons. There's inside and outside reasons for that. Okay, we have to own it, but the inside reasons are influenced by the outside. It's like this vicious cycle that just repeats itself.
Yeah, and just for everyone listening, what I know to be true in the US is that I think it's only 4% of venture and private equity dollars go to women-owned businesses. And it's not getting better with time. I think it actually was even like 5% back in the 70s. Yeah. So we're actually going down as time goes on. And anyway, I just share that because it's a shocking statistic, and we could do an entire episode on why we think that is. But regardless, to your point, Ayo, like, it's not even close.
It's not. And it's a shame because I know that women have great ideas. They are so brilliant. Are women in shadow that are not seen, and they're hiding, and they have the best ideas. And you're just like, what? And she's just telling you, I had this idea 20 years ago. Yeah. So this is a call to action to every single woman. If you need a pair of big girl panties, we can borrow you. We both have a lot of them. And so we have to also claim it, but we also need society and people in higher positions to be like, okay, we're going to make this happen. Because we still have stereotypes and we still have women being treated less in very high positions all over the world, including probably you felt it too. I felt it so many times, even though I'm such a badass and I cut people immediately if they treat me less, but I still feel it. And I'm like, how dare you? I mean, seriously. But it happens.
Yeah, it does happen. It's true. Well, I'm so glad that the conversation has taken us in this direction, because it is important and we need to be, it's just a call to action, honestly, because even talking about like women who have had the best idea, but they've been sitting on it for 10 or 20 years, it's like the idea actually isn't the valuable part. The valuable part is being willing to take messy action to bring it about. And we need more women that are willing to do that. And again, studies show that often women won't even apply for a job unless they meet every single qualification, whereas men are happy to apply if they're like, at like 70%, like, yeah, I can do most of that stuff. Yeah, sometimes even less. And so it's like that mindset is really helpful in entrepreneurship, because you are not going to check every qualification box for being an entrepreneur. You are going to stumble through a lot of it. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing, like you're screwing it up. And that actually is part of entrepreneurship. And so you just have to be willing to stumble your way through.
Yeah, totally. I tell this to moms because moms will get it. Entrepreneurship, I'm not a mom, but I know how this feels like, the comparison that I'm going to give you. I think entrepreneurship is you're a mom of a couple of kids and you wake up, toddlers. You wake up in the middle of the night and you need to go and pee barefoot. And you know there's going to be Legos on the floor. You just know it. And you're like, you don't know where the switch is because you're like, oh, still sleepy. And it's all dark. And you have to accept that there's going to be Lego pieces. You're going to step on things. It's going to be painful. You might find the switch. It's possible, but you might not find it. And that's what it is. And it's going to be surprising, and you might not know every single part of the house, because this is not a house that is your house. This is somebody else's house, and you're not used to it. That's what entrepreneurship is, because we have to admit and be very vulnerable. And I think we don't admit this because we're ashamed as women to do that. And there's so many reasons why. We have to be vulnerable and say, we are still figuring this out.
Yeah.
Because we just started. And it's true, in the history of the world, if we go back, let's say 3,000 years, 2,000, 3,000 years, we are figuring it out, because in the past 3,000 years, it's not like we were giving a lot of opportunity. We used to, if you go back to, there's so many cultures, like Egyptians, and even in Latin America. So we had Africa, different African parts, not just Egypt, Asia as well. We had so many women in power, but then what happened in Europe, what happened in other parts of the world, and all of a sudden, she doesn't have the voice. She can't make her own money. For 700 years, she can't go to university and school. She just stays at home and gives birth and cooks a meal. She can't vote, she can't have her own money, she can't divorce him. And if she divorces him, he can take the kids. And all of these things that literally amputate you, castrate you. And now, since when? Let's say the 70s, potentially, here and there, we start seeing more changes of women having the right to have their own bank account. Psychologically, that fucks you up. Not having your own money, not having this, not having that. You're like, oh, it's wrong. Oh, it's not mine to have. And so we don't have the experience neurologically in our brains and our bodies. We forgot. It's like riding a bicycle or a car. Oh my goodness, I haven't been behind the wheel. I hate driving. I used to love it, but I had a car crash. And I have my personal driver. I hate it. And when I got behind the wheel recently, I was like, okay, self-driving, when is that happening? Because this is just like, and I had to, it was a stick on top of all. And I was just like, okay, now what? What do we do here? So I was so out of it. And the same with women in entrepreneurship, would have to admit we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
We have to be vulnerable and say, we're just figuring it out and that's it. And shouldn't be ashamed of that. And if people are shaming us, and they will, because we're like, look at me, I'm a strong feminist, and then I'm still figuring out these things, and people will say, in your face, feminist. And then you just have to put the blinders on and your shades on and continue sipping your pina colada and not care about anybody and be like, whatever, I'll figure it out. And I'll take photos. That's what I literally do all the time. People tell me, nope, that's delusional. And I'm like, I'll send you photos. Don't worry.
I love that. Yeah. And you're big on proof. And like, even as we talk about money, you're one who will share screenshots and talk about money openly. So let's spend some time there. Was money easy for you? Did you feel like, you knew that your business was going to be 7 figures, you had the mindset for it, or did you have to do some inner healing and move through some money blocks?
Oh my goodness. I have a complicated relationship with money because I thought I had a great relationship with money, and then I realized I don't. And that was a big slap in the face. So I grew up in a very poor country. I was born in Bulgaria. It's tough. I don't say it in a way to put people down from the West. If you haven't been born in a country like that, you can't relate. It's a past Soviet country, communism, money wounds, and on top of all, it was enslaved for 500 years by the Turkish, who took all of the money. So there's a lot of money wounds. However, when I was growing up, I told you that I was in a family of entrepreneurs, and so I was under the impression we were good with money. And that's how I grew up. I've never lacked anything. I wasn't spoiled. We weren't rich, actually, but I felt good. And so I thought I have a great relationship with money. I never thought about it. I thought we are rich. But when I left Bulgaria to go and study when I was 19, oh my goodness, the shock. I was like, wait a minute, why is everything twice or 3 times? I've worked my ass off and the money was going like, not to mention the cultural shock of actually seeing how the rest of the world looks like. So I grew up with Western media, and I was in a language high school. And I was like, why is there this discrepancy of what I'm seeing on the screen, like Orange County stuff and LA and Hollywood and all the stars and the UK and Sex and the City. And I was like, looking through the window, and I'm like, that does not look at all. It's not. So it was a huge shock for me because I realized we're not rich. We are poor as fuck. And then I was comparing salaries and everything, and I was like, oh my goodness, we are so fucking poor. And it was very painful because first, identity shock. I was like, okay, I'm not rich, I'm poor. I'm very, 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 very poor. Now what? So plan B. So I had to make lots of decisions to make things work. And my studies, I paid everything, no debt, no nothing. We don't believe in debt in this part of the world. So we don't have the credit cards, we don't have the support. You are like literally alone. If you want to build a business, good luck you're going to get any investment from anybody in this side of the world. So the mentality is not there. The entrepreneurship in Bulgaria is non-existent for people like me, maybe for the mafia. So lots of trauma, as you can see, that surfaced, but I wasn't aware. So I was like, I'm a powerful being. I wasn't even identifying with a human being. I was like, I'm a cosmic galactic being. And then I was like, oh, wait, I still have this human body. Damn it. All the DNA, all the inherited trauma. We do know that trauma, scientifically, we know it's not just woo-woo. It travels through generations.
Yes.
And so I've never been bad with money. That's another thing. So in my 20s, I made a shit ton of money. Like I was having multiple 5-figure months when I was in my 20s,
wow,
which was a lot for somebody my age. I was living in a penthouse. I was traveling the world. So I made it work with my marketing agency, with working for big companies. That's one thing. I always knew I'm going to be big. I always knew I'm going to make money. There wasn't a plan B. It was like, I'm not here for the other one. I just came for this show. So the other show, I'm not going to buy the tickets for that one. No, thank you. Bye-bye. And the biggest work that came was actually when I was moving consciously from multiple six figures to the first million, which happened back in 2019. I was very frustrated. Why isn't it happening faster? And I just couldn't figure it out. I was like, I'm so good with money. What's going on? And I'm really good with the money. So I started working with many people, not just one. So I see a lot of people go and they suck the blood out of one person and they think one person is the savior and they're going to help them. It's not going to happen. You need a therapist, you need an energy healer, you need a coach, you might need a few coaches, you need support from different spaces. And so I received it. But for me, the biggest one, and what my energy healer found, and I was under these long hypnosis sessions of 6-7 hours when I will just channel something, my voice will even change, that I carry a lot of this trauma that happened during the slavery time. And I even said in one session, I'm a little girl trapped in a cage and they took all of the money. And she asks me, who's they? I say, the Turkish. At that time, I had no conscious memory of any of that. And so that was something I had to work on a lot. The fear of nobody's going to take it. And we collectively, women, have this fear. We share it. Every single woman who's listening, you have it, sorry. We are afraid of having money because we weren't given the opportunity to have it. We didn't have it. And so we are afraid of having it. It could mean somebody will take it. It could mean all the power, and we associate power with negative things because it meant rape and whatnot in our world. Power is not positive. It's not feminine. It's dark masculine. And so we are rewriting this. Me, you, and every single other woman. We see power now as something else. So long story short, I worked a lot consciously. I still work on it. My company has crossed 4 million officially. And it's an ongoing work. And I peel off new layers. Like recently, I actually found a wound of money and my parents being sick because I saw them working so hard and they had some health issues, and somehow my little child brain related the two, which is not necessarily how it was. But my little brain was like, they're sick because they work a lot. And so we unlocked that. That was another level that was somewhere there in the back. And I was just like, wow. And I think we have a lot to work on money. Money is a very complex topic. I hate when coaches oversimplify it. Money is one of the most difficult things, and love, I think, is one of them. We don't understand love and money. They're so similar. They're like one coin, and love is on this side and money is on the other because we have so much trauma around love as well.
Yeah, that's true.
The journey is on. There has been a lot of work, but I love the work, Emily.
Yeah.
It's so human, and I enjoy it, and it's more of like a quest game. I'm like, ooh, what's next? Because I'm a geek. I like playing games. When I had the time. Now I don't have the time. Play video games, not video games, computer games, but it's like, ooh, what's next? Ooh, what's behind this door? Oh, what's this? And it's almost like when I do this, I envision my ancestors, not even on planet Earth, but anywhere where we existed. It's like they're rejoicing with me and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you for removing these chains because we still dragged this. And potentially, if I ever decide to multiply and have a mini-me, copy-paste myself, I don't want to drag this on. It ends with me. I've said it. This ends with me. And maybe little Ayo, one day, if I ever have, she probably will have some wounds as well, but they will not be as many as what I had.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's what we're here to do. And we can heal our lineages backwards and forwards. Like, it's all these parallel lives. And so Time isn't actually linear. And when we heal it in every direction for ourselves and for all of our ancestors, all of the people that will come after us. And that's a really cool thing. So I'm with you. I love the healing work too. And to me, I love that money brings it forward. Like I always say, money is the best carrot, because it's like, if someone's just like, oh, you can be a little bit happier, but you're going to have to go through all this deep inner child healing. You're going to have to face every limiting belief you have. I feel like most people would be like, I'm good. I'm happy enough. But if it's like, if money is the carrot and it's like, no, you got to do all this inner work, but then you're going to make a lot more money. It's like many people, myself included, are more motivated by that. And so I find money to be like a beautiful catalyst for doing the inner work, which in some ways isn't related to money at all, but it's just all of the stuff around self-worth and what we believe happens in this world that we project onto our relationship with money.
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does your profit margin look like? Because being an agency owner myself, I find that you want to have a great team on board, and that can certainly impact your profit margins, because hiring great people and paying them great salaries means that a lot of the money is going to labor, as it maybe, I don't want to say should, but as it can if you make those decisions. But since you and I are real and transparent about money, I would love to just hear ballpark of what your profit margins look like.
Well, I'm very proud with that, because that was the big deal breaker for me in the previous agencies, especially in my third agency, the one that I had prior to that, because the profit margins for me were very low. They were around 18 to 20%. But we were outsourcing so much, so much was just going. And at one point, and we hired the wrong people. We had OBMs and managers. I think we hired managers way too early. And there was a point where I'm like, why is this person making more money than we do? Like, how is this happening as the owners of this thing? So it used to be 18 to 20, at the best 25. And now with the marketing agency specifically, I can go way over 50%.
Wow.
For me in my pocket.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I feel with a marketing agency, that's almost like you're Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's like unicorn level profit margins.
Totally. For the marketing agency. For the coaching business, it's like 99.9%. I have, in my coaching business, I have 3 part-time women who help me from time to time, but they do in total anything between 10 to 20 hours a month. That's why I introduced, alongside the agency, I was coaching people. I was like, I'm so stupid. Why am I coaching people without charging them in the agency? Because they will come. I don't know if you have this experience. And I think I do coach quite a lot of agency owners. They end up coaching the person. So the person goes and the person is like, can you do this and this and this for me? And instead of coming with the strategy and everything, they're like, oh, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
For example, if you go and you need to build, somebody comes to you and they're like, build me a whole funnel. They're supposed to come with the pieces of the funnel, technically. Yeah. They're supposed to come and say, well, this is how I want it, and this is the upsell that I want, and this is the copy that I want, and this is my client avatar, and this. But what happened with us is people come, they're like, I don't know anything. You just do everything and make me rich. And I was coaching them for free.
Yeah.
But then I was like, wait a minute. You paid for this coach $20,000 for an hour, and we're slaving our asses off, literally, and you're gonna pay us half of this or even less for some project. I just say the project was like $5,000 or something like that. But then they want everything out of you. So that was a big thing for me that increased the profit margins as well. Was coaching is excluded. Boundaries. Finding the right people. So finding the people, and I'm going to be very honest, finding the people who you can pay significantly less, not exploit them, because that is a hard no.
Right.
But at the same time, you are in a position where you're not paying somebody more than what you pay yourself.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was a process of my first marketing agency, 2015. It's 2023. So it took me that time to figure out over.
It's actually 2024. 50. Surprise.
Oh my goodness. Did I say 2023?
Yes.
Oh goodness gracious. How in the world is 2024? When? What happened with the last 5 years? Where were we making money? But yes, what is your experience?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone through so many of the same kinds of things. And we've kind of done it both ways, where we tried to just hire quote unquote cheap labor because we kind of underestimated like how much strategy and connecting of the dots would need to be done. So we were sort of looking at it as like, oh, well, this isn't that hard. Someone can just do this. So we had a lot of lower level people on the team, but then it's like you become the bottleneck because you're the one who's having to pull it all together. And so then we've hired higher level people, and of course hired some wrong people too. Like that's part of it. It's going to happen. But we used to be afraid of really paying like top of market. So we were always trying to find like a little bit of a discount, like maybe get somebody for 80 grand a year or something like that. And when we finally hired someone for like 135,000 or something like that, it's like she could do the work of 1.5 $80,000 people. So we've continually hired better and better and better people, but then we need fewer of them because they are doing all of the strategizing. They're doing the thing, like they're connecting the dots. And these high level like A players want to be surrounded by A players. And so it's like,
of course,
it's kind of like with a good like sports analogy, right? It's like if your basketball team's not that good, putting more people on the court that are not that good might not really help because you're still going to drop passes, you're still going to miss baskets. But it's like you could put just probably 2 professional basketball players on the court against a whole army of less qualified people, and the professionals are still going to win. So it's like you need fewer of them. So that's kind of the journey that we've made in our agency. But I agree with you. Like we pay ourselves the most. And I do see a lot of agency owners that like pay themselves last. And it's like when you know the stress of making payroll, when you know the stress of, I don't care how good people are on your team, if there's a big client issue, it always gets escalated up to the top. So it's like, yeah, if you're the CEO, you do need to get paid the most. You're the one person on the team that like absolutely is invaluable. And even in times when cash flow has been a little bit tight, we're just like, we're paying ourselves and we'll figure something else out. We'd rather feel the tightness in this moment and use that to make some changes than just cut our own pay. Like, no, that's not happening.
Yes, and as you said, many don't do that, including myself a couple of years ago. That was a big thing. I was like, oh, that's fine. I'll just figure it out for myself. What I did different to what you shared is I had your philosophy of having less people, but then I felt like they're being overworked and they have too many things to focus on. And then I said, what if I actually hire as employees fewer, but I have a lot of contractors that I trust. I've worked with them. And so now I have 4 graphic designers. I have a couple of people that are and so I know them all because I've worked with them all these years. And they're always there. Like yesterday I messaged one of them because a client of mine needed some graphic design and rebranding. And she was like, when do you need this by? And I'm like, yesterday? She's like, I knew it. But she was available and we have such a good connection with her. She's a contractor. I probably took 5 minutes telling her exactly what to do. Boom, 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 boom. And she was like in half an hour. And I'm like, what? How did you do that in half an hour? It's because, and she told me something amazing. If I go and try to look and read it, it's going to take a lot of time. But she said exactly what we started in the beginning.
Yeah.
you are such a great leader. Like, you tell me so clearly exactly what you want. You know how you want it. You just give it to me, everything straight. And it's so easy for me to execute. And because we have this beautiful relationship and vibe, she's been with me for the last 4 years. She knows exactly how I like things. She knows what I hate.
Yeah.
I also have this relationship when I can tell her this sucks. Because
Totally.
in my previous business, when I had a co-founder, she was very much of like, oh, we shouldn't speak to people like that. Now, I'm not Steve Jobs, or
Right,
I'm
right.
not mean to people.
Yeah.
But I don't have the time to tell you kindly and politely that you didn't do your work
Right.
the way it was communicated. I can tell you, I don't like this, but I will always say how to improve it. I will always say, I don't like this, let's do this.
Yes.
And so I think that for me, that worked so good, having more people. One of the biggest things that changed the game was having way more people building websites for us, because that's such a long thing to do. People think that websites are built like this. Like,
No.
okay, done. It takes so much time. They don't get it. They're like, isn't the page ready? It's been 6 hours. I'm like, it takes maybe 12 hours sometimes to build a page.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was a life changer. All of the people who I work with are women.
Yeah.
And all of the women who I work with come from a codependent situation. This is how I started my business back in 2017. The very first marketing agency that I had after the video agency, it was, I made a promise that I'm going to hire women in a situation. I'm going to help them. I'm going to train them. Of course, I want them to have some skills, because I don't want to train you from zero, because that's suicidal. But every single woman, my main assistant, my ride and die, Sammy, she came to me when she was divorcing her husband, who was abusive and narcissistic. And she's like, I'm divorcing this motherfucker. And we know each other before that. And she was like, do you have something for me? And I was like, yes. And now gone are the days when she was in this situation.
Yeah.
Another of my people in my team, they sent me such a beautiful message a couple of months ago. She's from the Philippines, and she actually took her family for the first time to have dinner, because I always send her more money. Like, when she does the work, I always send her extra money. She's like, we're going for a family dinner for the first time in a restaurant.
Oh my gosh.
I will never stop
Oh, I love
my
that.
deathbed doing this.
Amazing. So, okay, so how can people find you so that they can hire you and this amazing team of yours? Like, where are you hanging out?
The best place to connect with me is definitely on Facebook. So if you search for Ayo Gospodinova, or even better, if you find the link, because that might be difficult for you to put it in.
Yes, we'll put it in the show notes.
Facebook is my home. I love Facebook. This is the place where it's me in the DMs most of the time. So definitely connect with me there. You can also see my work on my website, The Empire Circles. And if we ever meet, just say hi and be a human and smile, and let's have a beautiful connection. That is, I think, the most important thing, to be humans on social media.
Yes. Amazing. I love this conversation so much. Ayo, thank you for coming on the show, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Bye. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Ayo as much as I did. It's always really fun to see where these things go. You know, there's some things I always know I want to talk about, and these conversations take on a life of their own, and I get to be along for the ride, which I really enjoyed. So I'm going to share what my top takeaways are. Definitely feel free to tag me on Instagram at mmakesmoney. Ayo said she hangs out on Facebook. So find her. Feel free to tag her as well. My top takeaways were these. Number one, how different the female brain is. And we want all different kinds of brains to be solving problems and developing new ideas and creating things in business. And I just loved that perspective, just actually looking at it from a biological perspective, why we need more women in power and women in business. Number two, look at the bigger world for examples of wealth. I loved her story that here she is in a poor country watching MTV or Laguna Beach and seeing an example of a different world, and she allowed that to expand herself. And I think there's always opportunities for that. I know living in a really wealthy part of Southern California has really expanded my wealth consciousness and what feels totally normal to me that is not normal in other parts of the country or other parts of the world. Number 3, if at first you don't succeed, try again. I love that Ayo always knew she was going to be an entrepreneur, and she has had several iterations of her business before she found the one that's been really successful and had the profit margins that she wanted. And so much of entrepreneurship is just being willing to iterate. Takeaway number 4, value your thinking, not just your doing. So if you're someone who's getting paid to do, which there is nothing wrong with that, make sure that you're looking at the places where your thinking is really valuable and make sure that you're getting compensated appropriately. I liked Ayo's story of hang on, I'm developing this entire strategy for them and I'm not getting paid for the coaching side of things. And then she made that adjustment in her business. And lastly, number 5, build relationships with your team. That really came through in Ayo's story, just how much she cares about people. And she's building long-term relationships so that even with contractors, she knows how to communicate with them. They understand her communication style and they're able to work really effectively and efficiently together. And that only happens when we're willing to invest in the relationship as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. It makes an incredible difference. I have a beautiful, beautiful conversation coming up soon with Nicole Mitchell. It's probably one of my favorite podcast episodes I've ever recorded. Just to give you a little preview, her tagline is from pastor to stripper. So you guys make sure you tune in to next week's episode, and I will talk to you soon. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Ayo as much as I did. It's always really fun to see where these things go. There's some things I always know I want to talk about, and these conversations take on a life of their own, and I get to be along for the ride, which I really enjoyed. So I'm going to share what my top takeaways are. Definitely feel free to tag me on Instagram at mmakesmoney. Ayo said she hangs out on Facebook. So find her, feel free to tag her as well. My top takeaways were these. Number 1, how different the female brain is. And we want all different kinds of brains to be solving problems and developing new ideas and creating things in business. And I just loved that perspective, just actually looking at it from a biological perspective, why we need more women in power and women in business. Number 2, look at the bigger world for examples of wealth. I loved her story that here she is in a poor country watching MTV or Laguna Beach and seeing an example of a different world, and she allowed that to expand herself. And I think there's always opportunities for that. I know living in a really wealthy part of Southern California has really expanded my wealth consciousness and what feels totally normal to me that is not normal in other parts of the country or other parts of the world. Number 3, if at first you don't succeed, try again. I love that Ayo always knew she was going to be an entrepreneur, and she has had several iterations of her business before she found the one that's been really successful and had the profit margins that she wanted. And so much of entrepreneurship is just being willing to iterate. Takeaway number 4, value your thinking, not just your doing. So if you're someone who's getting paid to do, which there is nothing wrong with that, make sure that you're looking at the places where your thinking is really valuable and make sure that you're getting compensated appropriately. I liked Ayo's story of hang on, I'm developing this entire strategy for them and I'm not getting paid for the coaching side of things. And then she made that adjustment in her business. And lastly, number 5, build relationships with your team. That really came through in Ayo's story, just how much she cares about people. And she's building long-term relationships so that even with contractors, she knows how to communicate with them. They understand her communication style and they're able to work really effectively and efficiently together. And that only happens when we're willing to invest in the relationship as well. So I hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. It makes an incredible difference. I have a beautiful, beautiful conversation coming up soon with Nicole Mitchell. It's probably one of my favorite podcast episodes I've ever recorded. Just to give you a little preview, her tagline is from pastor to stripper. So you guys make sure you tune in to next week's episode, and I will talk to you soon. Listeners like you have made this a top 3% global podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, share, and leave a review. I also love hearing listener feedback, so feel free to slide into my DMs on Instagram @mmakesmoney. If you would like to explore hiring me as your money healer and business mentor, hit the link in the show notes or head to explore.emilywilcox.com. Until next time, I'm sending you all the magic money vibes on your joyous path to millions.